Hey, this is Oscar from Inlak'ech Coaching. People have asked me before how I got into personal transformation coaching. What's my story behind it? In the short clip that you're about to see, I talk about my own story, how I got into this by changing my own life. So hang out for a minute, check it out, and leave us some comments. Let me know what you think, and let me know if you have any questions. All right?
Please help me welcome Oscar Perez.
Nadie vive del fui, teacher, Rosa said. She was one of my students at a nonprofit where I taught English as a second language in Providence, Rhode Island. Loosely translated, nadie vive del fui means no one lives by focusing on who they were. Rosa's words struck a chord deep within me. When I was in my early 20s, I was incredibly successful at destroying my life. One night, after having too much to drink, I got in my car to go to a friend's house. On the way there, suddenly my car died. I was approaching a bend in the road when the wheel locked up. I tried to turn the wheel, but it would not budge. I stood on the brake with all my weight, but the car kept skidding forward. It lurched over a curb, slammed through a fence, and came to a grinding halt. My body was flung back against the seat by the impact of the airbag. I stepped out of the car to see what I had done, and I knew that was it. The car was totaled. It was not going anywhere. Just like my life was not going anywhere. For the past 2 years, my life had spiraled out of control. I was lost in a labyrinth of depression and rage. I sought relief by getting out of my head. So I did what so many angry, rebellious, and heartbroken people do. I drank. A few days after the crash, as I sat in a jail cell in a dusty New Mexico town, a man I had never met before handed me a book and said, "Hey, you should read this." It was Tales of Power by Carlos Castañeda. I had read some of Castañeda's books when I was younger and been fascinated by them, so I accepted it eagerly. In it, the old shaman teaches Carlos that his fears and his limitations are the creation of his own mind. As I devoured the book, something in me woke up. I realized that everything that had happened in my life led to that moment to teach me one lesson. I was living the life that I had created. Up until that point, I thought the world was against me. Nothing and nobody was on my side, and why would they be? I had learned distrust from the very person that was supposed to protect me. My self-hate was born in the shadow of my father's drunken fury. Now I saw that reliving the torments of my past was a prison fashioned from my own mind. The power was not in the hands of those that had hurt me so long ago. I was not bound by the story of who I had been. I was not limited to the life I knew before the crash. If I had been so masterful at destroying my life, I would be unstoppable at creating a new one. The possibilities are endless. When I left the Doña Ana County Detention Center, I was like a Zen monk. I looked at each and every one of my friends and I told them, the world is going to change. The world is going to change. They all thought I had lost it. I'd lost everything else. My education, my car, my job, my freedom. But I knew something that they didn't know. The world we live in is the product of who we are and what we believe is possible. If I can change myself, I can change the world. I was ready to do the impossible. I went from being a dropout to being on the dean's list. Within a few semesters, I was selected to represent the state of New Mexico for academic excellence. In the years that followed, I learned 2 new languages. I became an accomplished martial artist. I traveled around the world. I lived in 2 different countries on 2 different continents. You know that statue of the Christ that overlooks Guanabara Bay in Rio de Janeiro? I climbed that mountain with my bare hands. 9 years after the crash, almost to the day, I stepped on stage to receive my PhD from Brown University. I am the first person in my family to complete college. A little over a year later, I broke a teaching contract with Harvard University and moved to California. Today, I dedicate myself to coaching young people through the same types of depression, self-hate, and rage that almost cost me my life. I help them create brilliant futures and an unstoppable self-image. Have you ever stopped to think of the stories that create you? Have you ever considered that you have the final say in creating this precious human life? If you've ever asked yourself, how far can I go? Always remember, nadie vive del fui.
I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope it gave you a little bit more of a background of who I am and why I do what I do. If you have anything that you want to share, and we really appreciate any comments, questions, or otherwise, drop us a comment or message us at info@inlak'echcoaching.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so we can bring you regular content on how you can transform your life into what you want it to be.